It is your boy T, the overly emotional movie reviewer, and I swear watching John Q, I probably cried 10 times watching that movie. From the conversation he had with his wife that set him off at the beginning of the second act, all the way up to that flex at the end from his son. This was Denzel at his finest. But this movie I'm reviewing today, The Strangers Chapter 1, can be labeled many things, but tear-worthy and fine are not two labels this movie received, at least for me, but let's talk about it. So, if you've never seen any of the Strangers movies, the plot goes like this: a random couple is home, three mass killers knock on the door and kill them in torturous and almost ritualistic natures. The horror comes from the fact that it's seemingly completely random, and in the original 2008 movie, it's actually inspired by the Manson family in the book Helter Skelter. I did enjoy the first film and I also enjoyed the 2018 sequel, The Strangers Pray at Night, which upped the violence and the body count. So now, here we are 16 years later, and now we have The Strangers Chapter 1, which is a soft reboot or reimagining of sorts of the franchise directed by Rennie Harlin, who's already shot and filmed the other two movies in what is a trilogy for this Strangers world. This film, like the others, have a couple traveling through Oregon and they stop in a small town of Venus for a bite to eat. Their car doesn't start and they crash at an Airbnb for the night before they get a knock on the door. And then chaos and violence ensues. So, yeah, that's the plot. The highlights. Highlights were the callbacks to the original film. There were these subtle callbacks and similarity to the original film with the records playing, the two creepy boys asking a couple if they are sinners, and playing up the idea of marriage and how it affects the couple's survivals in the movie. Another highlight is I thought the movie looked really good for at least the first 30 minutes, that first act. The world felt lived in, and all the vibes the director wanted to go for as we were introduced to the characters and even the town of Venus worked. But then that's where everything fell off the rails. Let's get to the lowlights. The biggest lowlight was the lack of anyone's common sense. I understand we had to set up these characters in and up at this Airbnb, but how they got there just didn't pass the common sense test for me. For so many different reasons. Without going into any spoiler territory, well, with the exception of this one, they're driving through Oregon, and given the people I've met from Oregon, no part of me would ever stop anywhere in the state of Oregon. But they're driving and they get to a town of Venus, and the sign reads Venus population 435. I don't know about you, but the blackness in me will prevent me from stopping in any small town with a population less than at least 15,000. One thing that angered me was how inept these characters were, as if they have never seen a horror movie before. But in the real world, they just assumed they were safe because it was a woman who knocked on their door initially. I feel like they had so many opportunities to save themselves, but they completely lost all brain function due to fear. I legit almost yelled at the screen a few times during the movie, and someone actually did at 2 points in the movie yell at the movie screen. Another lowlight was the forced tension and the absolute void of any real violence. I went into this movie thinking I was gonna see some solid torture porn as the couple scratched and clawed for survival, but no, this was a cat and mouse thriller that tried to use clever camera work and sound editing to bump up the tension. And let's go ahead and talk about sound editing and sound in movies in general. Seriously, movies, your use and misuse of genuine sound irks me. In this movie, when they wanted us to know the killers were in the house, their steps were so loud and obnoxious. But when they were using their ninja killing skills, no one can hear them, even when they were literally right behind them. There was a scene where one of the characters is in the woods, and this looks like it's taking place in fall because all of the leaves are on the ground. These killers must float above the leaves because somehow they managed to walk right up on the character without being heard at night in the woods. How? As for the violence, I swear it must be coming up in the next two installments because there was barely any violence. Like there wasn't too much bloodletting. This wasn't a gory affair. This film left on a note that has me genuinely intrigued how they're going to tie in the next two films together with this one. They left a few breadcrumbs, and this movie isn't one big setup for the sequel. It's just one overly tense, not so thrill ride that you want to stop and slap everyone involved for not strapping themselves in, knowing that there's some loop loops coming up. So, who is this movie made for? This movie is made for anyone who enjoyed the first two Stranger films, but I would suggest watching Funny Games, Knock Knock, or even No Vacancy, which did this way better. This movie is for anyone who loves high tension and jump scares. What always drew me to these movies, was the fear of the randomness. This isn't Ready or Not where the mass killers end up meeting and match with someone trained in survival skills or kung fu skills. These movies always were about the average people randomly getting targeted by deranged people in mass to inflict violence upon. It truly did fascinate me, but this movie went a bit far and made these folks have below average intelligence and way below average survival skills. I can't recommend anyone pay any money to see this movie, and hopefully the next two will get better. I doubt it, but one can hope. So you made it to the end of the video. Did you see The Strangers Chapter 1? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you loathe it? Are you a sinner? Okay, don't answer that last question. But let me know about the first three questions down in the comments below. Are you excited about the next two installments? And while you're down there, go ahead and drop a like and subscribe to the Have You Seen That with T YouTube channel. We are growing and working our way towards 200 subscribers. The ultimate goal is to surpass the town of Venus and get over at least 435 people here to support the channel. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you later.